Hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. This week you join me out on the bank and we're in search of carp. Before we do get into this week's vlog, if you do enjoy the videos on the channel, please leave the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It really does help the videos out, and I thank you all every week who leave the nice comments down below. So for the past couple of weeks you've seen me target carp on the Belmont estate. We've had plenty of fun in the margins, targeting those carp on floating crust and on the bottom. This week I've grabbed the gear and we're in search of a slightly bigger carp. We've come to a brand new venue and we're going to use similar tactics to what we've used for the small carp, where hopefully we can make contact with something a bit bigger. To begin with, I've just been stood looking at the water, looking for any signs of fish showing and areas to set up. In this area here I have seen a grebe working, so that says to me there's small fish in the area, so it seemed like a decent place to set up. What we'll do is we'll waste no time at all. We'll have a look at the setup, the swim, and how we're going to approach it. So there's the bivvy there. We've got me broken spod rod there, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I've put my hold all in the shed to keep dry like the wood. We've got the shelter up, all the basics we need. I'm panning round from the bivvy, that is the view. My first time on the venue, brand new venue for me to fish. And the car's over there somewhere. Like all the venues across the country, a lot of rain at winter and it's gone into spring, so the banks are very muddy. So yeah, we've got to the peg now. When I come on, I stood on that bank there. I've not seen anything move really. That corner there looks very nice, I must admit, and I'm keeping my eye on there as a potential place to bait up. We are restricted with how we can fish, obviously without the spawn. The bait that I'm about to show you in a minute, we can't get into the middle like I'd planned to do. So the left hand rod, I'm lining up with that there. One of the beauties of it being muddy, got the waders on just to keep clean on the way home. The rod's nicely in the water, will be nice and quiet. There's a beginning of an emerging set of lilies here and I've just gone off the end of them. Had a bit of a lead around and it seems nice and clear. That is shallow, but what it does allow me to do is get some of that bait on a spot. So we've got a bit of bait down there. I'm sat a nice distance back on the, you know, the harder ground there, so it is going to be nice and quiet down this margin. The wind's blowing that way, and first sessions on venues are all about learning, so today it's about just watching and learning. You can see Mr. Coot's found me spot, so if Mr. Coot can find it, then Mr. Carp can as well. So let's have a look at the bait that we're going to be using today. Now the plan when I arrived was to spod, and yeah, the spod rod's broke, so that's out the question. So we're going to have to improvise. So what I'm going to be doing is, on the far bank rod, we're just going to be putting boilie and firing boilies over an area and hoping we can attract them in that way. Like I say, my plan was to put this bait in by the spod over the top. On the margin rod, we're going to be putting in some of the boilie by hand over an area, but this is the feed that we're going to put over the top. The same as the blogs where we fish for them smaller carp. We've got the hinders little gems, we've got a tin of corn, we've got some of the 8mm seafood pellets, and we've got some broken up boilie in there as well, the seafood boilie. And the margin rod, we are going to be able to bait quite well with this, so I'm going to put quite a bit in, you know, make a statement, let the fish know I'm here, and yeah, hopefully these tactics will work like they did on recent vlogs for the smaller carp, and we can get a picture next to that shed behind us, because it does look beautiful for the picture. So the rod that we're using today is the Cordon XTND rods in 10 foot. Got one of the Zelos reels, and on there I've got 15-pound line. Nice compact setup that goes nicely in that hold all. So regulars to the channel will be shocked about how complicated this rig is for Danny's angling blog. It really is simplicity itself, and I do keep me fishing simple. We've got some ESP tubing to keep the line down behind the rig because it is nice and shallow. I'm going to fish the lines semi-slack, so the line's going along the bottom. Got a nice heavy weight to set the hook, lead clip, we've got an anti-tangle sleeve, we've got some of the ESP line, some of it coated back to give that flexibility around the hook. We've got a tungsten sinker halfway down just to keep it pinned down, and we've got a simple hair rigged boilie. So I was just about to show you Mr. Bream. We've had 2 breams so far. We've had one off that spot and We've had one off the middle spot on a double take, so there's definitely 1 or 2 breaming. Good to get a bite and good to know, you know, that fish will come down these margins. So that bream was a little escape artist, wasn't he? I've cast the rod back in. I'm just going to scatter over an area, a handful of boilie like that, and my tactic with that is just to keep drip feeding them in. You know, you're going to hear that plop of the boilie hit the water. I'm going to break a couple because the water is coloured, so it releases that smell a bit quicker. But yeah, just going to put a few more boilies over each rod. When I see things like that, I always just think how many people over the years have sat on that bench and looked out over this scene here. It is a beautiful place to wet a line, nice and quiet. As a bit of an update, we've had them 2 bream. It's been about 2 hours now with no action. Just been periodically putting a bit of bait in. If bream can find it, then you've got to hope that Mr. Carp can as well. And there's been no fish rolling at all to go on. I've been stood next to the bivvy when it's not been raining, just looking for signs. There hasn't been any. As much as I've looked, I've not seen. I was hoping to see Mr. Carp down in that corner, because it does look like a spot that I'd fish that. Nice and quiet and some features. So after that bream, we put a bit of bait down that margin, and the right hand rod has absolutely melted off. And it's been a while since I've moved that fast to a rod. It's absolutely screamed off, and this is definitely not a bream. Well, if it is, it's a record. You can just see down there the plumes of mud just coming up. I've not seen the fish yet. We had on these 10-foot XT&D rods, the reel just ticking over nicely, and after them small carp in the previous weeks, it's definitely what we come for today, something that's going to pull back a bit. I'm just going to take my time, just try and get it in. So last week was great fun with them small carp. We have got an absolute whale in the net. Oh my god, that could be a PB. Not in carp terms in total, but in the UK I think my PB is about 23 pound. That is an absolute chunk of a fish. Oh my god. Shaking, which after so many years fishing is what it's all about. Let's give him a rest and let's take a look. And there we go. What a fish. 28.5 pound on that small little rod, and it absolutely tore off. What a beautiful fish. I'm absolutely made up. It's not very often that I get shaky. Done a lot of fishing over the years, but yeah, been a tough start to the day with the spod rod breaking, but it just shows by baiting up that margin how close in big fish will come. And it's the same bait mix that we used last week for those small carp on the float. Let's get this beautiful carp straight back. Back you go. Thank you very much for making me a happy angler. Proper made up. So we got our picture, didn't we, next to that shed. It's one that I was hoping to go, and you shouldn't really pick your spot to come by the picture that you hope to get, but today I did, and we got it, and boy did we get it. These are the moments afterwards. We got the rod out the water, all the gear, the other rods out the water while I was sorting that fish out, and in years gone by I'd have been super eager to get back in, but over the years you learn just to take it in, enjoy the moment. I'm absolutely buzzing, I really am. A day that started so bad really has turned round. Coot's back on the spot. I'm sure in the moment we'll get the rods back in. So I've been sat up there chilled out for about 15 minutes. It's time to put the rods back out, and it is mad, you know, when you think about it, how close you can catch fish. I'm going to put in maybe a few more boilies than I have been putting in because we've literally put 10 in after each bream, and we're going to put a bit more of that bait just off the spot. It's about midday. We've been fishing for probably 4 hours, so there's plenty of the day to go. Let's get the rod back in and see what else comes along. We did talk about these boilies at the start, about the bait that we're using, and we have been using them for them smaller carp in recent sessions, and that was all about building the confidence. Well, the confidence now is through the roof with that big carp, but it was those sessions fishing for them smaller ones that give me the confidence in the seafood. Seeing them carp come in the margins feeding, Just gives you that confidence that the carp are coming and eating the bait. And big and small carp are the same to me. And who knows what else is out there. As the first session goes, you've got to be happy. It's been about 10 minutes and I've just cast that rod out on the middle, put them boilies out that you're seeing, and the bobbin's just pulled up tight, and it did feel like a bream. It didn't run like the other one. You couldn't have got two more different takes. One screamed off and this just pulled the alarm tight. Isn't really doing much fight. It could be a big bream. I don't know, I can say how big the fish go in here. I'm just going to take my time and just try and get it in. Not seen it yet, but judging by that tail pattern, it's got to be a carp. Definitely doesn't feel as big as the last one, but that being said, that was a beautiful fish. Oh, line just pinged off its fin. He's waking up a bit now. It definitely has missed a carp. Another nice one. Right under the rod tip, like the last carp. Absolutely battered me underneath the rod tip. Let's try and get him in. So regulars to the channel know I'm terrible at predicting fish. Bream turn into carp and carp turn into bream. But he definitely woke up under the margin. And he looks like another chunk. We'll give him a good rest. I'll have a rest. We'll get that margin rod in that we've just put out. And we'll take a look at him. But proper made up. So an hour ago, if you'd have said to me, sat there with two bream, we'd have had a brace of 20s. Called you a liar. It's been a frantic last 40 minutes. That 28-pound carp, and then we've had this 21, and I think it was 9 ounces or something like that. But proper made up. So the rods are back out, and there is a saying that is true: time flies when you're having fun. And it's up to 3 o'clock now, 3:30. The day has flown by. The rods both back out, sat underneath the shelter. That wind's pushing right to left. I put a bit more bait on the spots. I'm just going to sit back and chill. Proper made up. To get a bite off each spot, even better. I've not seen anything today to base anything on. No carp rolling, nothing. So them sessions where they've been fishing for them small carp really have paid off. So it's been about an hour and the boilie rod out in the middle has gone again. I just thought I'd get this bream out and just show you the size. We fish with all fish on the channel, so it might be well worth coming on here and targeting these. That's the third or fourth one we've had today, and they've all been about that size, so well worth catching. So after that bream, no more bites were forthcoming. As is always the case, the rain comes in as you're packing in, so we are packing up in the rain, but there's no rain today can dampen my spirits after that session. Proper made up, and a happy Danny is packing in the rain. I really do hope you have enjoyed this week's vlog, and the only thing left to do is to wish you all tight lines in your own fishing for the weekend, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.